Alrighty, these are going to be your FHL, which is the flexor hallucis longus. We're going to be doing isometrics in a position of toe off. Now that is going to be when we're running, sprinting, or jumping and we go to push off the ground. That is going to put length or a stretch under the FHL. Remember, the FHL runs from the big toe underneath the foot, crosses under the ankle, and then heads over to the fibula. So we need good ability for that to achieve length, which is going to be dorsiflexion. Now, we're going to have our leg in the back, and to put that under a stretch, we're going to roll up just a towel. Now, this towel doesn't have to be crazy thick, so you don't need it like 3 to 4 inches. I like to take the towel, I like to fold it in half, and then I'm just going to roll it up just enough. Now, you should do this exercise barefoot. It's not going to work well in shoes, and if you do in socks, you're going to find that you tend to slip and lose the bit of the stretch. So we're going to roll this up. We're going to place that towel behind us, and then one more time, I'm going to put my leg into extension, and then I want to stretch that big toe to the point where you can see that I've got length under the big toe. It's fine if the other 4 toes are on the towel. In fact, that's totally normal. And then I want to feel my first metatarsal on the ground. Now, obviously, if you want more stretch, you can do one of 2 things. You can lean a little bit further, or you can roll up the towel a little bit more. You got to kind of find the Goldilocks zone. Now, it's important to understand that most of the people watching this haven't done intense isometrics for the big toe. So don't overdo it. Make sure you do your isometric at a tolerable intensity and you don't just send it as hard as possible. So I'm here. I'm going to find that stretch. Now, you might not feel as intense of a stretch because in this position, we have extension of the big toe, but I am in a plantar flex position, so that's not as intense as if I was in big toe extension and dorsiflexion. But this is going to be a sport-specific position for us because we want the ability to toe off well. So I'm here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start to build up a contraction by trying to squash that towel underneath my big toe. I'm going to build up over 5 to 10 seconds to my safest and greatest isometric that I can tolerate. Remember, safest is the first word, so don't do anything dangerous or sketchy. I'm going to hold that isometric for 10 to 15 seconds, and then I'm going to slowly ease off. Now, you might have to readjust, like I said. If you don't feel enough stretch, roll up the towel a little bit higher, find that big toe, and then one more time, play with how much plantar flexion you have. So the higher the heel, the more load you're going to get into that toe. And then, like I said, don't do this in socks. If you do this in socks, you're going to be slipping off the towel. So make sure you do this barefoot. Take 5 to 10 seconds and slowly ramp up, pressing that big toe. What I want to encourage you is when you're pressing your big toe down, don't shorten your big toe. So I don't want you to scrunch your toes. So keep your toe long when you do your isometrics, right? So toes long. That way we keep maximal length under there. So I'm here, and then I'm ramping up slowly and safely. I like to ramp up over 5 to 10 seconds to my safest and greatest isometric. Then I'm going to hold that safest and greatest isometric for another 5 to 15 seconds. And then I'm going to slowly ease off and continue to hold that passive load. Make sure, like I said, that you do this with reasonable intensity, especially if this is the first time doing it. And then, of course, play with how far your leg is back. And this is going to be a great way to develop the connective tissue of the long toe flexor, which is the FHL.